shouldn't have heard me last week. My voice was gone. I actually had to bring you a box of tea for me, especially for Swiss. I sounded so bad.
Like here, Mrs. Carter, I think you need this.
You gave us more than I did.
That's right. She gave me a golden bug. Awesome tea.
They just have the best parts, don't
They do sometimes.
And right when you need it, they just like show up and they just do
And that
something
was
so great.
actually out of Kim's seventh grade class. Because I stayed in the room last week because her son was sweet. The kids were so awesome and so and I just stayed in the room last week and set my skills down somewhere else. And then taught. And they were just so grateful to have me and we were actually teaching them something.
I'm sure they all knew you.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
I mean, they know me in the hall.
if not they had you, you know.
No, they didn't have me because I didn't have all of last year's sixth graders. So she only has one kid that I had last year as a sixth grader. So, but they knew who I was. And they knew that, because I knew this like 2 weeks ago because they just ordered some hand lenses in my room. They use rocks and scratch marks in the hand lenses.
Well, you know, it's all about hardness,
And
right? Well,
they
they took hand lens. Is it hand lens 2 or 3 on those?
How is your
Exactly.
gymnastics?
Oh, it's good. We've got to meet this weekend.
Yeah, it seems like you're
Love
being
my life.
successful.
Yeah, she's done really well this year, so she's really excited. Last weekend was like the bomb of all weekends.
Okay.
She got first place on
You got it?
her face was just
All right, ready? All right, good evening. I'd like to call the regular board meeting of the Waterloo Community Schools Board of Directors to order and ask that you join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, and will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now Jesse Knight will read our mission statement.
The Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to ensure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship, as evidenced by the continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to a community.
Thank you, Jesse. Before we go any further tonight, I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming tonight. I know it's a little snowy out there, and sometimes our policy has been if we cancel school completely, if we don't have school, that we won't have a board meeting. But since we were out early tonight, and now it has actually stopped snowing, so we decided to go ahead with our meeting this evening since it had already been posted. So thank you for your getting out and about in the cold tonight for us. So the next item on our agenda is a board celebration for Y Waterloo Schools, and I have to give special thanks to Adrienne Carlson for staying this evening and being here in the snow. She's our at-risk student support coordinator at Irving, and I welcome you to the microphone and make sure that little green dot is on.
It is.
And I'm going to let you go right ahead. This is something we started during our opening day ceremonies, and we're excited to hear what you have to say tonight. Welcome.
I'm super excited to be here. I was sitting in my office, the phone rang, and it said Bev Smith, and I thought, okay. Bev Smith doesn't call me every day. So she called and said, hey, would you be willing to tell us your why Waterloo? And without hesitation, I absolutely am so happy to be here. So thank you for the invitation, Bev. I did have to write this down because when you're passionate about something, you get to talking and people are going to have to shut you off. So I wrote it all down. My career history in Waterloo started before I was with Waterloo Schools. For the first 10 years of my career, I was with Family and Children's Council of Black Hawk County. Our focus was to prevent child abuse and strengthen families. It was amazing work. I loved my job. I thought that was it. I was one of those people who found my place right out of college. There was other plans for me. I joined Waterloo Schools in 2012 as the Student Services Specialist. I immediately knew that Waterloo Schools is where it's at. The focus is students first in every decision we make. We think outside the box, we focus on relationships, We want to see every single student succeed, and not for us, but for them. We believe that the school is a community inside the larger community, and our community is strong. I had the opportunity in 2014 to step out into a building and became the family support worker at Irving Elementary, later adding Pointer Elementary to my assignment. This year, I was given the opportunity to step into a new role as the at-risk student supports coordinator at Irving. Why does me sharing with you the positions that I've held seem important? Because that is why Waterloo. We look at people and their skills and encourage them to grow in order to have the best of the best here to support and guide all of our kids. We are good stewards. This is why our Career Center is showing such success in gaining partnerships. We recognize that every student is different. They have their own path, their own goals, and we are here to help them embrace it. Community organizations and foundations want to be a part of what we're doing. We are strong partners and leaders in the Waterloo community and beyond. Why Waterloo? A prime example of the reason that I choose and many others choose Waterloo is Summer Academy. Last summer alone, 200 students were enrolled in Summer Academy. Not only did the program provide opportunities to the students to continue learning, go on awesome field trips, and provide them a structured and fun learning environment for the majority of their summer days, the program also reached its main goal, which was to decrease summer slide, and even saw growth in the reading level of many of the participating students. Why Waterloo? Because in Waterloo, we believe that money spent on prevention is not a waste. We believe our focus is that children are safe, nurtured, educated, and supported. We believe putting dollars into mental health services for every child and adult should be a top priority. We embrace differences. We embrace challenge, and we embrace change. We practice transparency. We know and believe in the power of relationships with students and their families. We work hard, and we work continuously until exhaustion for our kids. So why not Waterloo? We are all choosing to be a part of the things happening in Waterloo, and we are choosing to be a part of something bigger for our kids. We all know that progress takes work, and we are ready for that work. We are not in it for the paycheck. We are choosing children, our children. We all know the costs and risks of not choosing children, and we believe in the impact we can make and the impact we know we will make. I do know this. Every single day, I choose to love and support 500 plus kids that are not mine. Not because I have to, but because I want to, and they deserve it. Every single one of them. I witness this in others every day. I witness teachers hugging each child as they enter their classroom. I witness administrators participating in an after-school steppers club. I see district administrators riding buses. I see our district leadership team regularly visiting buildings to remain in touch with staff and students, because every staff member and every student needs to feel they are important. I see our building environment team giving up their weekends to make sure that our building environment is positive and it promotes student growth. I see instructional assistants bringing dress code clothing for the child who needs them because they know those clothes will make all the difference. And I see volunteers, so many volunteers, who give of their time freely to Waterloo schools to impact kids. I cannot say enough about our volunteers. Someone only gives of their time when they truly believe in the mission and direction of an organization, and our volunteers keep coming back. How else can we support the kids in our community? Because in Waterloo, we want to know. We want to embrace it, and we want to be a part of this great change. That is why. That is why I choose Waterloo. I will continue to choose Waterloo, and I know that this is my place. One of my favorite quotes is by Frederick Douglass, and he says, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." In Waterloo, we're building smart and strong children every single day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. This is the best way to start meetings. I'm telling you what, geez. And I appreciate your writing things down because as someone who speaks from the heart sometimes and gets a little ahead of herself, I appreciate the fact that you were awesome. So thank you very much for that. Is anybody else? I don't want to cut that off. So thank you. All right, then the next item on our agenda is information from individuals and delegations, and I'm guessing by our thin crowd in the boardroom this evening that there is no one here who wishes to address the board, but I want to make sure, if there is anyone, now's your time.
Andrew?
Are you sure? All right, there's Darren. All right, then seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. And this evening, that consists of 6 items. Item B, which is the minutes of the January 22nd, 2018 regular board meeting. Item C, which is personnel appointments and adjustments. Item D, which is bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings. Item E, which is the Iowa Campus Compact Coordinator for National and Community Service Grant. Item F, which is the set date of the public hearing for the artificial turf project at Memorial Stadium. And item G, which is the adoption of STEM's Scopes science curriculum for 7th and 8th grade science.
Item E, please.
All right. So we will remove item E. That leaves items B, C, D, F, and G. Can I get those items on the table, please?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? Thanks, you guys. And is there any discussion?
Just for item G, I just want to thank all the people that worked on that and the hard work that went into that. So I think some of you guys are here, but just, it looks awesome. So I didn't have any questions for you. Just wanted to say thank you, kudos, and good job.
Yep, we really appreciate your time and efforts in that. Thank you, guys. All right. Is there anything further? Then all those in favor of approving those 5 items on the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That takes us to item E then, which is on page 15. And that recommended motion, I have to get to it, is that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the grant from Iowa Campus Compact Corporation for National and Community Service in the amount of $24,800 to fund 8 AmeriCorps/Vista positions for the 2018 Summer Academy.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
And discussion.
Well, I just wanted to, if Adrian was available, to kind of just tell us what the scope of that will be. Do we know what schools they may be at, or I guess, oops, sorry, didn't have that on.
Sorry. We got it.
But the scope, the schools potentially, the hours, just kind of a little logistics about the project.
Absolutely. Okay, so Summer Academy will be held again this summer. And this year, the buildings that have been identified so far are Irving and Lowell. And we are hoping to add a third, and we're believing that that will probably be Becker. We wrote this grant for 8 AmeriCorps Vista members. And so these are college students. So they're either entering college or they're currently enrolled in college. They have to be 18 years old. And they will commit to 8 weeks. It's considered volunteer service. And so then they would work full-time for that 8 weeks. So a lot of what they're doing is capacity building within the program. So we can look at different options to help sustain the program into future years. Part of their role is to engage community organizations to support the kids, and the other individual assigned to each building will be working for community organizations to support families. So work with families and build that capacity on outreach for employment opportunities, income, things like that. The main focus of AmeriCorps Vista for this program is poverty reduction. So they're really looking at supporting the families and the kids and setting goals and just that outreach to the community in itself to support this ongoing program. We see Y Academy in the summer as such a positive thing. Like I said before, with about 200 kids enrolled last year, we saw a decrease in summer slide and even an increase for many of the kids with their literacy scores. So it's really important work, and these individuals will help support that.
And I guess as far as what are they going to work on specifically, like a schedule?
Okay. Yep. So one at each building will be specific to working on the opportunities for the kids. So that might be bringing an organization to the school to provide opportunities for the kids to really connect why literacy is important to what this organization does in our community or the opportunities available in the community. The other individual assigned to the building will then be working on that outreach to then increase that parent aspect of the program. And then there's 2 extras, and they will work with myself and Gina Wakely directly to really work on that capacity building as a whole for the program. It's really important to get these programs set up so they're sustainable, and so that will be the focus for all of us to work together on that.
So In the 8 weeks that you're doing this, what's the time? Is it like 9 to 12 all day?
So they have to put in 40 hours a week. So the program, we're open at the school from 8 until 6. The kids are there. So between ourselves and the staff from the Y are there. And so they will be able to fluctuate those hours. But we often have opportunities where books are handed out in the community, and they'll be able to assist with all of that. But they need to put in 40 hours a week is the requirement for the program.
Adrian, is this in, what's the comparison? Have we had 8 in the past? Is this more or less? Is this a new thing? for
So
us to
this is
have?
brand new. Darren, Hannah, and myself went to a meeting where we were provided this opportunity to apply. And at that time, they said, think big and ask for, the number that you feel you could use. And so we put in for 8, thinking that we might get 2, we might get 4. And they came back and thought it was such a great project and such a great opportunity for college students to participate in that they gave us all 8. So we're really excited about that.
And just a couple more things from me, sorry, but
That's okay.
are kids, do you identify the kids? Do they have to apply? One, and then secondly, as far as this gives me an opportunity to tell any West High graduates or that are in college to apply for this, because my daughter did this in Des Moines last year, Des Moines Public Schools, and they do give you like $2,000 back towards your student loans too.
Yep,
so.
absolutely. So they are paid a stipend for their work, and then they're also, at the end of their service, then they're given funds that either can be put towards their tuition, put towards student loans, or they can receive a cash stipend, which is a little bit less than what they would receive if they were putting it towards tuition. It's a great resume builder for college students. AmeriCorps Vista in itself is a great resume builder, but they usually ask for a 12-month commitment. This is just a great opportunity where they are providing 8 weeks of commitment, and it will just be such a good learning opportunity. We have currently placed some spots listed at UNI. So we met with Jennifer Becker, who places social work students, and then she shared it with Youth, Leisure, Human Services Department. She shared it with the Family Services Department and the Sociology Department. So all of them have summer internship requirements or opportunities that are available to students. Most of the time, internships are unpaid. So they can use this like a paid internship. So they're learning, they're gaining credit, but then they are getting a stipend in the end towards their tuition and plus the cash stipend along the way. So it is a great opportunity. The requirements are they must be 18 and then they must be enrolled in a college in Iowa. They do prefer one of the 3 bigger schools, but they will look outside at any college in Iowa.
And so to apply for that, would they go to the AmeriCorps website or?
Right now, they could email myself or Gina, and then we will be setting up interviews. When they go to the AmeriCorps website, the application there is because they've already gone through us. We've said, yes, we want you in this position. It's quite the lengthy process after that to get them through. So we want to clear them through us before they get to that point. Okay. So, yep, they can email myself or Gina weekly, and or Darren Hannah, and we would be able to have that information available for them. And okay, so Adrian Carlson or Gina weekly, and then that's what the UNI students are doing so far. And then we will start interviewing students immediately, so we can get them that information, so we can get them through the orientation, which happens in May, and that's after school is done at UNI.
So when exactly would this start? Like in the school?
Yep, so
June,
it would start at the end. There's 2 different start dates they can choose from. One is the last Thursday in May, and the second one is, I believe, the first Thursday in June. So, and we can adjust that based on the dates we set for Summer Academy.
And then as far as students, how are they going to be identified or chosen as far as that are in the program?
In Summer Academy. So, students are actually identified for the Summer Academy program based on where they're at with their reading scores. Some of them are needing that assistance. Some of them are kind of on the bubble, but we're definitely looking at students who need that extra help over the summer. We don't want them to have the summer slide. We really can't have those students have the summer slide, but then we also need to make sure that we're pushing them forward. And a lot of kids, like I said last year, we saw growth even. So the literacy coaches, the teachers all come together, and then the students are invited, and then the parents would fill out the application for them to participate.
Great. And it's district-wide they're chosen from? Or just those
From
3
those schools.
Just those 3 schools, not
those
district-wide?
3 schools.
Okay.
And then the Boys and Girls Club has a 21st Century grant that deals with Lincoln and Cunningham. So those two schools are involved with them. And we applied, the school district and Cedar Valley Readers, and you and I applied one, or Y, I should say, with the YMCA applied for one that could expand us to 300 kids with the one that we're doing. So we started with 200. We'll see those, we should know end of February, first part of March, those grants. So we're slowly but surely trying to expand the program. This is a big piece of that because we only have to pay, what, the original $250.
Yep.
Everything else is, for us, is at no cost. But they're still getting great benefits. We did start meeting for Summer Academy, and we'd be happy to come back next, or at the next meeting if that's, and give you the update. We're looking at, we believe, June 18th. And we're still partnered with the Y, you and I, doing the rec and leisure majors and the pre-service teachers. So, yeah, we're off and already doing planning meetings and getting ready to go.
Thank you.
Were the sites determined off of who already received grants through the Boys and Girls Club? So
Yeah,
it was
we had
just
an anonymous.
That, it's not going to pick you up necessarily out of the crowd.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
the original Y Academy was at Irving and Becker because we had an anonymous donor through the Cedar Valley Readers. And we had done a pilot at Irving in year one and then expanded to Becker just because of proximity. We also have, we can't duplicate services with schools that the Boys and Girls Club would have summer programs with because it's the same granting.
okay.
Okay, so they're working on a few, we're working on a few, and when you put them together, we try to get as many schools as possible.
Okay.
Now on this, once we get going, we can look at that, but it is also based, when you do 21st Century grant, based on free and reduced need, and because it's a poverty issue as well. So those are kind of the schools that we look at when you're writing for that grant. But we do try to then fill slots and go from there.
Now, when you gave the dates, you said they can either start the last Thursday of May or the first Thursday in June. What determines that? Is the student determines it, or
AmeriCorps.
but everybody starts at the same time?
Yep, so they have everybody start at the same time, but we did explain to them that we're not looking to actually start Summer Academy until June 18th.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that they have at least a week before and a week after, and then depending upon the number of weeks we run. So we just want to make sure that we have that buffer on each end, so they are giving us some leeway. So they just said we need to let them know. The start dates are defined just based on their orientation. So they have to go through a full day orientation either in Cedar Rapids or Des Moines. So it's just scheduling that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And I just want to clarify for people too that this is a grant for that great amount of $24,800. So I do really appreciate the Iowa Campus Compact and the Corporation for National and Community Service. And the cost, the actual cost to the Waterloo School District is just $250 per volunteer. So I just want to make that clear for our viewing audience as well. So, all right. Anything further?
Well, just one comment too. I think as long as we have Adrian and Darren here, I think it's probably prudent to mention all of the work that goes into the Summer Academy. And honestly, far beyond the two people in front of us, when we look at the work it takes to pull off something of this magnitude, it truly is a community effort. You know, some people had, you know, Gina Weekly isn't here right now, but I mean, this was part of this was kind of her brainchild that she brought this concept. We've had people at the Y who have just been amazing support. Just such a concerted effort, I guess, a comprehensive effort. And so I just applaud the fact that we are able to bring this to our families, to our students, and especially because it worked. The fact that, you know, we watched it and we wanted to make sure that we were going to replicate it or be able to replicate it if it was effective, and it was. And so we are happy that we are trying to curb some of the summer slide and having students lose ground over the summer, you know, making sure that they aren't losing ground so that they can hit the ground running. And in some cases, like Adrian effectively pointed out, making gains, starting a higher score in the fall than they left in the spring is just really amazing. So I applaud both of you for your efforts and the staff that you work with, and certainly the community as well.
Hear, hear. Thank you. All right, anything further? Great. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about Summer Academy for sure. So, all right, then all those in favor of approving the recommendation for the AmeriCorps Vista positions for the 2018 Summer Academy, please signify by saying aye.
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 And all those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That concludes our consent agenda this evening. So that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is item H, which is the resolution in support of Iowa Public Education. And I'm going to get this motion on the table, and then I'm going to go ahead and read this resolution aloud. So the recommendation is that the Board of Education approve the resolution in support of Iowa Public Education.
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse.
Second.
And second, India. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to take a minute and read this, and then I'll give a little background when I'm done with that. So the resolution in support of Iowa Public Education states that whereas the legislature will look at enacting educational savings accounts, and whereas the board, in consultation with its community, has determined that the Iowa legislature should not enact educational savings accounts as currently proposed or vouchers, and should continue to promote and fully invest in Iowa's public schools. More specifically, Iowa already has school choice options like open enrollment, virtual education, homeschooling, both competent private instruction and independent private instruction, and tuition tax credits for private schooling. Public schools are overseen by locally elected citizens and are required by law to operate with openness and transparency concerning expenditures, reporting, and decision-making. Non-public schools are not held to that same standard. Policymakers should continue to promote cooperation in the collaborative environment that already exists between public and non-public schools, and that public schools accept and educate all students regardless of background, socioeconomic status, special needs, race, religion, etc. And whereas the board believes that public schools provide a strong educational foundation for Iowa's children, whereas the educational savings accounts, if enacted as currently proposed, would jeopardize public school programs and opportunities for directing resources away from public schools to non-public schools who are not subject to the same standards for the use of taxpayer resources. Now therefore be it resolved by the Waterloo Board of Education. And so I would just like to go on the record as saying this is something that multiple districts, the UEN districts, are going to all be looking at this. I know we talked at our last board meeting about, I believe, our neighbors to the west in Cedar Falls have also passed a resolution for this. Many of us here at the board table have been talking about the importance of public schools over the past few months. Dr. Lindeman, India, and myself and several parents were at the Capitol last week for Public School Awareness Day and to advocate for public schools. So I come out in strong support of Iowa public schools. I come out in extra strong support of Waterloo schools. I think we are doing amazing things for all of our students here in this community, and it's incredibly important that we maintain the integrity and the income stream for those institutions. So I'm going to turn it over to my other board members. I don't mean to dominate this. Clearly, Adrian, I'm getting off script. See what happens? And I'm also going to let Dr. Lindeman say something. So anyway, I'd welcome comment from the rest of the board on this. So,
as Shanley did say, we did go down to Des Moines, and it was an experience like no other for me, for being newly elected. But it was very interesting, and I can't stress enough the importance for us as a community to tell our people who we have voted for, to tell them how we feel about these public dollars, about the education savings accounts, how you feel that public schools are very important, and they want to hear from us. You know, we're not getting a lot of feedback from the parents from Waterloo, and I can't stress it enough that, you know, let them know that, you know, how important it is to have this opportunity to be able to express how you feel, and they're not hearing from us. So the other parent that I was able to join me to go up there, Rose Militant, she definitely doesn't have any kids in the community herself. Her oldest is 30 years old, but she as a grandparent feels strongly that I want to make sure our public dollars are staying at our public schools. So I think it's very important that the word gets out. Share with your friends. The conversation needs to be talked about. Definitely.
Absolutely. Thanks, India.
Let's say, as my involvement in the community, I touch base with a lot of different families from different backgrounds and different programs over the years, and I look at the needs in our community and think, when I see these children that, boy, they need a little help here and a little more help here, whereas in the classroom, whereas just somebody at home to help support them. And, I've always been about giving the kids opportunities and just never turning a kid away for anything as much as I ever tried. And when I think about where we're going here, this type of legislation really starts to cripple us in our ability to support our kids as much as they need. And, so many people out there that may be voicing other opinions, maybe not really have a real idea of how much need there is. And, whereas clothing, food, school support, all those things that just many of us take for granted. And it just worries me that we're going down a path that would just make it even more difficult for our community and our school district to support our children.
Thanks, Jesse. Sue, I don't want to put you guys on the spot. No, we're like it's down the fire.
No, but I too just wanted to. I think it's good for our board to publicly support this because that's why we're here. That's why we serve on a board. And there are choices, and there always have been, and there always will be. But, and I'm not saying that people should not have a choice, and I don't think our board is saying that whatsoever, that people should be allowed a choice. That's what our country is built on, is freedoms and choices. But to take public dollars and not have accountability for them is a problem that really I am bothered with, that we need accountability for those dollars because as a school district, and if anyone has questions or would like to see how they're operated, retirees in the community, people that aren't in the building a lot, just give Dr. Lindeman or Pam's office a call and we could set up a tour just to show you how great our schools are, but the accountability that we have to provide to state, to federal, to local. We have a gamut of funding sources that have to be accounted for and used in a way that we are told to use. And with giving public dollars to entities that are not given guidelines or mandates like we are, it doesn't have a level playing field. And I just feel that we need to strongly support this. I'm a graduate of public schools, my kids are, and my daughter's a teacher, and I think of a lot of ELL students, and a lot of us are fortunate to have parents that we can go home to and they'll help us with our reading, or homeschooling. Obviously a parent helps a lot in most cases, and some parents can't even read English. And so I think that it would just be so unfair for our state to overlook the students that don't have a support network that can properly train them in the same way that some homeschool avenues can. And I just can't emphasize enough that we serve all students. We have no borders, we have no boundaries. We accept every single student that comes to our door. So, and we will continue to do that, but if our funding is cut and continued to be cut, it just makes it harder and harder and harder. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Astor, you're over there all by yourself.
And that's a good thing today. But the good thing about being over here by myself, I just echo the sentiments of everyone else. I 100% support Iowa Public Education. I don't have to say much because they, did a very good job of it, but I am in support of public education.
Thanks, Astor. And I know we're a little thin on that side of the table, so I do want to make sure that our public does know that as a board, we might be 5 of us tonight, but we all are in support of public education. And I do want to give our superintendent a chance to speak as well. If she has anything to add, I'm sure you do.
Well, yeah, I do, and I actually I was going to make some of these at the end, but it seems appropriate to go ahead and make a couple things. This weekend there was an article in the paper about some legislation that is being proposed, and I thought that Andrew, who wrote the article, actually really captured in the last paragraph kind of my sentiments as the superintendent. It is my job to make sure that we are watching legislation and supporting legislation that makes our district stronger, and also opposing legislation that could cause limitations or have a negative impact on our district. And so I have been watching this legislation very carefully for many reasons, many of which you alluded to today. I think that I know as a superintendent I feel very, very strong about being fiscally responsible with the dollars that come to us. And so I think the transparency with which we operate when decisions are made here in front of our audience, and we actually televise our board meetings for that purpose, because it really is taxpayer dollars that allow us to serve children. And so I think Sue's comments probably are closest related to what I'm trying to say right now. I think the transparency with which we operate is noted and should be recognized by our public. So I also am very supportive of this resolution. I'm not voting on it because this is a board resolution, but I think you are seeing these type of resolutions come from many districts across the state of Iowa. And what's interesting to me is they are not just coming from big districts or from smaller district. It really is a universal feel across the state of Iowa that there's a concern for making sure that we are supporting public education, especially the district. Public education serves 94, whether it's 93, 94, 95%, I'm not exactly sure about the percentage, but the vast majority of students. And so any legislation that would cause a harmful or have a negative impact is something that we need to make sure that we are discussing with our parents. So I certainly applaud this board agenda item.
Thanks, Dr. Lindeman. I want to echo what India said again, too, though, that for our parents, our grandparents, our community people who are interested in making sure that their voices are heard, I do urge you to make sure that you reach out to your state representative and your state senator and the governor with your opinion about public school. And if you don't know who that senator or that rep is, you can certainly go online and find that out. There is a website, it's iowalegis.gov, and you type in your zip code and it will show you who your representative or senator, your legislator is. And so I do urge you that if you are concerned about this as well, that you make your voice heard. And they do appreciate emails and or letters or postcards, or phone calls. Yes, and we do have postcards too available if anyone wants them. So, all right. Is there anything further that anyone would like to add? Go ahead. Yeah.
Will this be public, this resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, we just handed Mr. Wind a copy of it as we spoke. So, and it will be up on our website.
Great.
So,
thanks.
Yep. All right. Is there anything further? All right. Then all those in favor of the resolution in support of Iowa Public Education, please signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Thank you. That takes us to the next item on our agenda. This is item I, which is on page 23. This is a property exchange agreement with the City of Waterloo regarding Miriam Park and the Edison School site. This is something we've been working on for quite some time. So I'm going to go ahead and get the item on the agenda, or on the table, and that is that the Board of Education approved the property exchange agreement with the City of Waterloo, transferring ownership of the former Edison Elementary School site to the city and receiving a 10-acre portion of Miriam's Park in exchange.
So moved.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks, Sue. For those of us who are on the Finance Committee, like I said, this is something that has definitely been in the works for quite some time. As a district, we took the step of taking the building down and having that area around Edison cleared and ready for development, and it's just been a matter of getting it through planning and zoning and getting it through the city departments. And I can turn this over to Dr. Lindeman as well, but we are looking at a parcel of land that is directly adjacent to the Central Middle School, just south of Sager, just to do a land swap. It's as simple as that, and I will turn that over to you.
Yeah, I would just mention for the public, we do have policies in place, but we also have procedures that help define some of the policies. And one of the policies that we have is concerning disposal of land or property. And one of the procedures in place for that supports that policy talks about how we might dispose of land and what the board and what the superintendent would look at. And so we have kind of a protocol in place where we might look to, if we have land we no longer use, we would look to perhaps sell that land as is with the, if it happens to have a building on it, we leave the building as is, we try to sell it as is. If that isn't fruitful, then we may make some adjustment to the land, maybe perhaps demolishing a building, getting it ready and then trying to sell it at that point in time. If that isn't fruitful, then we may look for some kind of an exchange. If there's some, especially with an exchange with another municipality, like the city. So if the city of Waterloo has land that would be more advantageous for us to own, and maybe we can do a trade, maybe the city is looking for land that we own, we can do a trade. And so that's the case in this situation where we have looked at the Edison property. We have tried on numerous occasions, I guess, to dispose of that land. And so in this case, the Miriam's Park area was really land that was adjacent to one of our buildings. It is where the Waterloo Career Center is. We have, we don't necessarily have a plan for that land right now. However, it certainly leaves options open in the future. So in this case, we are truly trading land that isn't contiguous or adjacent to something that we have right now for land that might have a better benefit for us. And so it is actually a good thing for us to be able to do that. And so we're happy to work with the city in that way.
And it is some land that's right adjacent to Memorial Stadium, and it's grass currently, and it's something that I believe we've already been sort of maintaining because it kind of blends right into there's a portion that we've already been maintaining. Right. So this shouldn't be any additional work or burden for the district. Mm-hmm. So
I'll just say I went by the Edison site this week, and I mean they did a wonderful job of with that. You can hardly tell there was a building there before. It's great. It looks nice.
Well, and I think if you look at other areas like Irving, where Irving, the old Irving school was, if I went to that school and you go by there, it's like, I can't believe it. There's like 15 houses on that properties now. And it's like, how awesome that these kids have a close school to walk to and a nice little community there. So I again, as I always do, but I just want to commend the district for sticking with their word that we got the Edison all cleaned up, and now it will be a vital part of that neighborhood and that neighborhood association. I know they have a really active neighborhood association there. And for the Miriam Park area, if anyone always recalls, it was where there used to be an old pumpkin carriage. That was like my favorite park, and they took it down. But anyhow, that's where Miriam Park is, because my husband's like, where's Miriam Park? And it's right off of Green Hill, but with Sager on the backside. And so how advantageous for us to have that land available if we need it in the future, and the city can move forward. And the neighborhood association is very, very happy about this. So.
And they've been very patient. The neighborhood association has been very patient, so we're very happy to have this exchange almost in the books. So all right, is there anything further then on that? All right, then, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the property exchange agreement with the City of Waterloo, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That takes us to the next item on our agenda, and this is the contract for financial audit services. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education accept the recommendation from the Finance Committee and approve the bid from Bergen KDV Limited of Waterloo, Iowa, to provide the independent financial auditing services for fiscal years 2018 through 2020. 2022, excuse me.
So moved.
Thank you, Sue. And a second?
India. Second.
Thanks. See
been a
what I
long
started
day.
with the 2022? Great. Great. And discussion? I'll go ahead and turn to Sue.
Yeah,
talk about finance.
Lyle's not here, but
Right.
he is our third member of our finance committee, Shanley and I, and just for the public to know, this was not done with lots of forethought, and other board members too, that we went through the different bids that we had, and a little history. I think Dr. Lindeman probably could tell us. I know Michael's not here, but we had Hogan Hansen do our audits for how many years?
10?
Yeah, 10 years, two 5-year cycles.
2 5-year cycles.
And very pleased with them.
Yeah, very, very pleased. They've done an excellent job, excellent working relationship with them. But with being familiar with finance and just at our meeting, we discussed that sometimes it's good to have a different eye on your figures and a different eye on your sources. And we talked through this, and it was a very lengthy discussion, and we thought thoroughly through this. And so Bergen KDV is a local company, and Hogan Hansen too, local. They are not quite as experienced in auditing for schools in Iowa as Hogan Hansen is, but they have a lot of extensive experience with auditing in other districts probably, well, Minneapolis, I guess, or in that area, and large districts. So, but again, from my point of view, I just felt that it was very beneficial to have a different eye and a different person to work with our finance department, and to go through the procedures again, and just I just never feel that is a bad policy to adhere to. So that was why I definitely was in support of Bergen KDV. The prices were a little bit less for Bergen KDV, but that really did not play in my mind. It just was a new eye on the books.
And it is per board policy that we review every 5 years. And so we had entered into our second time, we did Hogan Hansen twice. So that is, on that front, it is something that is not out of the ordinary, that we're back to our 5-year time frame in which it's time to pick another vendor. And I would also echo what Sue said by saying that I think a fresh set of eyes sometimes is just always helpful in finance. And this did also review our finance committee, took a look at this, but also people within the finance department here. They did a rubric and did some, I was asking Dr. Lindeman, I'm not sure, I think there were 2 or 3 people that were part of that process as well and brought some recommendations forward to us. So there were definitely some vetting along the way of all of these vendors.
Right, and it really is in the spirit of transparency that we just talked about a moment ago. It really is in making sure that we are using our dollars correctly and appropriately and for the public interest. And so I certainly am recommending that we move this direction.
The other 3 of you, do you have any questions on that?
And Lyle, again, was in
Yes.
agreement totally with us.
Yep.
So we did concur with that after discussion, so.
All right. Then all those in favor of approving the recommendation from the Finance Committee on the bid from Bergen KDV Limited of Waterloo, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Then the next item on our agenda is item K, and this is the issuance of school infrastructure sale, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2018. And I'll put this recommended motion on the table, and then I will read you the resolutions. So the recommended motion is that the board approve the resolution directing the sale of school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2018, as presented.
So
And-
moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. And then the following resolutions, I'm just going to take this because it's got writing on it that's not on, sorry, I can't read over there. The resolution appointing Bankers Trust Company to serve as trustee, approving the trust indenture and authorizing the execution of same. The next bullet is the form of tax exemption certificate be placed on file and approved. And the third bullet is the resolution authorizing and providing for the terms of issuance and providing for and securing the payment of $16,667,000 in school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2018 of the Waterloo Community School District, State of Iowa, under the provision of Chapters 423E and 423F of the Code of Iowa, and providing for a method of payment of said bonds. So do we need to put those are all just part of the, okay, excellent, great, all right. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lindeman, perhaps, for just a little
Absolutely.
bit more
Right.
background on that.
Yeah, really what this is procedural steps that have to follow when we approve a bond to move forward with a sale of bonds. So the resolution in layman's terms is really to appoint the person who is going to serve in as kind of in the broker role. So they're serving in the as the trustee for the sale of the bonds. They will begin now. I mean, should this be a successful vote tonight, they would be hired to take us all the way through the last payment in the bond. So they would be with us for multiple years. So we would be naming Bankers Trust for that. So that's kind of the first part of the resolution. It also is a procedural protocol to determine what happens with the tax exempt certificate, that it has to be filed and approved. So that's just another another, if you think of it as a formality or a procedural step that is in place. And then the last one talks about the terms of issuance. And so these are all things that truly do follow, but it has to be done in a public open setting like this. And I believe it has to be a roll call vote, right? Yeah, I think this has to be a roll call vote. So these are things, these are steps in place, and they're probably not the last of the steps.
No.
So it's just the next steps in the process. So we did some things at the last board meeting, and this is the next step.
Great. Another one of those things we're held accountable for, that we have to make sure that we get it right.
And it's a formality that shows the public what we're doing.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely. If we're going to issue bonds, we better be talking about it.
That's
So,
right,
yep.
absolutely.
So, all right, does anybody have any further questions about that? Thank you for letting me stumble through those resolutions, you guys.
Yeah.
So, all right, this is a roll call vote. So with that, India Johnson?
Yes.
Yes. And Jesse Knight?
Yes.
And Sue Flynn?
Yes.
And Astor Williams?
Yes.
And Shanley McNally, yes, in favor of the resolution in support of the directing of the sale of the school and infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2018. All right. So moved and seconded. We're all good to go. And it passed. So, all right. With that, I will turn it over then to the superintendent for Dr. Lindeman's report.
Thank you.
Kind of felt like that was Mr. Rogers with the way I said that.
I didn't make that connection. So,
Sorry.
It's something I wanted to make note of. When Adrian was up talking, one of the statements that she said really caught my attention, and I guess it applies to a lot of people, but I think it may, I guess I'd really make the connection with the school board. One of the statements that she said was, people give of their time when they believe in the mission. And so I think that, if we look at the people in the room, if we look at the board up here, people are giving of their time. I know that the board members are not paid to be here, yet you give of your time because you believe in what we do. You showed that tonight with the resolution supporting public education, but you do that time after time when you come to this table to help make decisions for the good of our students. And so I just thought that was a great quote, and it bears repeating. So just to quickly reiterate, I would really urge our public to stay in tune to the legislation that's happening. We had the opportunity to go down to the Capitol, and I probably will be going down in the next couple weeks again, just to talk with legislators to make sure that I am representing Waterloo schools and legislation that is in our best interest, or the best interest of our students. So we had the conversation down there. Certainly we talked about vouchers and ESAs, but we also talked about equity and funding, both on the per pupil allocation and also the transportation equities and inequities that might exist. We talked about assessment I just see there's a bill on the floor right now to have to talk about Iowa assessments being our new statewide assessment. I find that very fascinating. The whole process is fascinating. I actually was on the task force that was legislated years back, and we made a different recommendation. And now the legislators have, they're going to make a decision in the legislature what our new state test will be. And so it's a very interesting process. But it is the process that is before us, and I think. Democracy in action is people making their voice known. And so I urge everybody to just pay attention to that. It can be a little bit unwieldy many times. There's just a lot going on, but I think that people need to make sure they stay in tune to that. And then I guess my last comment is just about the weather. We're in February right now, and we certainly know the state that we live in. And it is very often, I've mentioned this before, it's very often difficult to make those decisions. And today we dismissed because of weather, but I come across the news, the very sad news that 2 sisters from Decorah were killed this morning. And I kept thinking they don't happen to go to school in Iowa. I believe they maybe are in school across the border, but I couldn't help but think about the family that lost 2 children today, and the responsibility on our district to make sure that we do our very best to make good decisions for kids. And so my heart goes out to the families, and I again appreciate the support and the grace given by our community to make sure that we are trying to make decisions that are right for kids. Sometimes you often get them right, and sometimes the weather is unpredictable, but I just that kind of weighed heavy on my heart, especially after I saw that article today. Thank you.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right, so first, to get this out of the way, Saturday, 3A wrestling districts, East and West, will be at Western Dubuque competing. So good luck to those teams. I think we have one young man at East High who's in running for a state championship. So, and he's also signed at UNI too. I think he committed UNI. So congratulations to him. And then like I said, I got to spend a lot of time lately. We've been out a lot of kids around with some other organizations I work with, and it does. When I see kids accomplish things, and that might be the bright part of the week, bright part of the day, and I had that opportunity this weekend. I saw a young man that accomplished something that he didn't have parents there, but I know they wanted to be there, but they couldn't. And when I hear statements like about our legislators, like, we're not hearing from people. Well, sometimes it's not that people don't care. They don't have means to contact. They may not have email. They may not have phones. They don't have access to get the numbers. It doesn't mean they doesn't care. You really got to get a pulse on what's going on in the community to know what those needs are. You can't just assume that somebody didn't email me, somebody didn't call me, that they don't care about something. That's not necessarily the case. So my challenge to the legislators is get out among your people and ask. Don't just wait for them to come to you. Go see what the people need. So.
Just wanted to congratulate the West High boys basketball team on their big victory Friday night, that they beat Cedar Falls. So that's a good feather in their cap. And then East High beat West the couple weeks before. So we have some good basketball teams here in Waterloo. So if you are looking for something to do on a weekend night, go out and support East or West, because there's some good ball players on both those teams. Secondly, I just wanted to remind students and parents that we do have conferences coming up February 13th and 15th. And people say, well, it's only a short time into the semester, which indeed that's true. But the history behind that is we did have parents come to board meetings years back and say, hey, they would prefer the conferences be earlier than later so something can be done, that they can get a pulse on their students and how they're doing. And so we listened to the people that came and talked, and so they will be in a couple, well, about 10 days or so. So kids just keep working at all your assignments and tests, and parents just try to attend those conferences because this second semester is very important in all levels, and we just want to keep the achievement going. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Sue. Aster?
That's one thing again about being down here, listening to everybody else, and they took mine. So
I know.
Dr. Lindeman, I was thinking when I got the text message and the email earlier about schools, the only thing I thought about was safety. I didn't hear about the 2 young ladies that passed, but it was safety that was on my mind when I got the text message and the email. So I'm glad the decision was made to let schools out earlier because it was pretty nasty when I got off. And then Sue, I was going to mention congratulations to the West High boys basketball team for beating the team. I think they were ranked 3rd or 4th in the state.
Yeah.
4th in the state, so congratulations to them. I also want to mention 2 young people. We like talking about the bright spots in our community with our youth. 2 young people, one from East and one from West, both accomplished this year. I believe they were the first in their positions to reach 1,000 points. A young lady a young man from West High. And I think they're still doing a little checking on that, but I believe he was the first to reach 1,000 points, which is a huge accomplishment. If you think about it, if you're the first to reach 1,000 points, I mean, how long has it been going on? And then the young lady just reached it, I believe, Tuesday.
Yeah, she
and she's only a junior to reach 1,000 points. So kudos to those young people, the coaches, the parents, administration, athletic directors, everybody that had a part in that. So a couple of bright spots in our district. So thanks.
Awesome.
Shanley, can I amend mine?
Sure.
One I forgot. I wanted to thank Mr. Metcalf and Dr. Barney we voted on the public hearing on the turf project. I know they put a lot of hours in that, and I think it's just for their work in that, and I think it's a good step forward for us. So just wanted to recognize their efforts. So
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting, isn't it?
yes,
So
our band will be really pleased.
yeah, the band is going to be pleased. So Aster, did you have anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay.
No, that's
All right.
it.
I just had a couple quick things too. I wanted to congratulate Waterloo Swim. They had one young man, Tate Hookham, who made it to state in the 50. That was this weekend, and then also several groups from West High School, their speech department they competed up in Decorah on Saturday at state, and several of them made all state. Those announcements happened today, so look for them to be heading to Ames in a couple weeks. It's awesome for them. They always take a great group down there. So, and then lastly, I should have talked about this under the public school thing, but I kind of forgot that there is an educational forum that is happening on this Saturday at Central Rivers AEA. It starts at 10 a.m. and there will be legislators there. Even if you don't want to say anything, it is the whole point of the forum is just to talk about education, and you'd be welcome to just attend and hear what people have to say in our community about education. So it certainly isn't just about K-12. It's about, all education in the state, but you can learn something if you are interested in that. So I don't have anything further unless anyone else does this evening. We can put on our boots and head back out. So all those I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
All right, Sue, in a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye, and we are adjourned. Good evening. Stay warm and safe. Thanks.
Thank you.